recognize Representative Nicole Malliotakis of New York, who's the ranking member for the Subcommittee on International Development, International Organization, and Global Corporate Social Impact for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being with us today and answering our questions and concerns. You said that the Afghanistan mission was, quote, successful. I speak for millions of Americans when I say that when it was a kick in the gut to see our American military vehicles parading in the streets with the Taliban flags. This has been a real hasty withdrawal. U.S. citizens unable to get through the gates. The SIP process was a mess. Our offices had to work with veterans on the ground because we couldn't get responses in some cases from the State Department. And we still have 100 American citizens still behind enemy lines, which is the same number that it was 2 weeks ago. And of course, the 13 soldiers who were killed. So I don't know how anyone can call that a success. But then again, it's coming from an administration who has misled the American people throughout this entire withdrawal. Today, you said the Taliban is committed to not allowing Afghanistan to be used as a base for terrorism. The Taliban, as you said, is a designated terrorist organization itself. It harbored al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden leading up to 9/11. And the U.S. government has also designated the Haqqani network a foreign terrorist organization. Mr. Haqqani, as you know, is now one of the Taliban's new cabinet members. He's on the FBI most wanted list. We have a $10 million reward for information leading to his arrest. I fear that this is a type of weakness and credulity that has gotten us in the situation that we're currently in. The FBI still has even questions for the Haqqani network. A January 2008 attack at a Kabul hotel that killed 1 American and 5 others, a 2011 suicide truck bomb in Wardak province that wounded 77 American soldiers. Now that we have no presence on the ground in Afghanistan, how is the administration working to ensure that the same terrorists do not attack Americans again, just as they did at the Kabul airport? And, how can you trust the Taliban to say that they're going to do this and actually work to prevent terrorism when they're a terrorist network themselves? And what have they told you about rooting out ISIS-K, who is responsible for those 13 soldiers' deaths?
Thank you, Congresswoman. First of all, it's not about trusting the Taliban at all. It's about holding them to the commitments they've made, not just to us, but to the international community when it comes to not allowing Afghanistan to become a haven for outwardly directed terrorism. There are 2 groups that you pointed to that are very important in this. One is ISIS-K, the group that killed our servicemen and women just a couple of weeks ago in Afghanistan. As it happens, one thing one can say about the Taliban is that they and ISIS-K are sworn enemies, and the Taliban has spent the last 5 years, even as it's relentlessly been moving to take more territory, to also take territory away from ISIS-K as it sought to implant itself in Afghanistan. And they remain very much at odds. And I think the greater question with regard to ISIS-K is less whether the Taliban has the intent and more whether it has the capacity to effectively deal with it. But over the last 5 or 6 years, it took away virtually all of the territory that it held. Then you rightly point to al-Qaeda. The ability of that group to engage in outwardly directed, homeland-focused terrorist attacks has been dramatically degraded. And the assessment of the community right now is that they do not currently have that capacity. Having said that, we will remain extremely vigilant to detect any reemergence of that capability, and of course, take action against it if it reemerges. And as we were talking about a little bit earlier, we'd welcome the opportunity to go into more detail about that in a different setting.
I would appreciate that, because I am very concerned that the government is relying on the Taliban for counterterrorism, and that should not be something that we should even be flirting with. But in addition to that, just while we were in this hearing, $64 million, it's being reported, in additional aid to Afghanistan. And how do we know, and how can you guarantee the American people that this isn't going to end up in the hands of the Taliban, just like our military equipment and vehicles and weapons did?
Yeah, it's an important question, Congresswoman, and here's what I would say. That money and any other assistance we provide, humanitarian assistance we provide, will not be provided to the government of Afghanistan. It's provided to NGOs that we've worked with for many, many years. and to UN agencies that we've worked with for many, many years. And they have tried and true mechanisms in place to make sure that the assistance gets to the people who need it, not to the government.
Well, I mean, I still question that. I think that we have to be, I don't agree with this decision at this time. I do believe that we need to be concerned even about NGOs that are doing work on the ground. And
Gentlelady's time has expired.
And
Gentlelady's
child brides, if you can touch on that, just where the status.
The gentlelady's time has expired. I now recognize Representative Chrissy